So, you've just pulled Tartaglia for the first time, and you think, how useful is he? Or maybe you're thinking, I need a team to put him to some good use. I recommend Hyperbloom. Now, I've done a couple of videos on Tartaglia Hyperbloom, and the first one, I just clearly didn't understand how Hyperbloom worked, and that was my fault. And then the second time around, it was half decent, but since I originally posted that video from like a year ago now, I've completely changed the team. Well, not completely changed the team around, but I changed the team around and I have never gone back and I've never changed it. And essentially, this is the team. I call it my gardening team. So we have Tartaglia as the driver. We have Kazuha as Animo, Reaction, Good Time, Fun Time, EM Boy. He does a ton of damage. He keeps everyone grouped together, which for Tartaglia honestly is ideal. Nihida for Dendro application because she is one of, if not the best Dendro applicator in the game. And Kuki Shinobu because her EM capabilities are absolutely phenomenal. The team itself uses easily my favourite character in the entire game. Tartaglia has been my favourite character for well over a year now, and I'll be honest, I don't see anyone taking his spot, but here we are. So for characters in terms of build, we will quickly go through everything. So with Tartaglia, weapons, he currently has the Viridescent Hunt on. I like the crit rate that comes with it. The swirl is a nice bonus because it keeps everyone together, plus his, his whole Riptide thing with the swirl effect is actually quite convenient, and I don't have any other replacement bows. Pretty much anything that boosts his damage is really good. Stringless, I don't see any reason why you couldn't use because it does increase elemental skill and burst damage. Burst is less useful than skill. Rust is also, I think, a great alternative. I think Rust is what I was originally using before I went and got the Viridescent Hunt. Yeah, so in terms of free-to-play options, I think Rust or Stringless is probably a great option. Viridescent Hunt is a great option if you get the pass each month. There is also the new bow, but it requires charge shotting, which isn't very useful. Kazuha's weapon is the Iron Sting. Kazuha can pretty much use any weapon that has a elemental mastery. So Dark Iron Sword, great option. Iron Sting, also a great option. I like the simplicity of just building him pretty much all elemental mastery, so whatever has the best EM for him, I'd recommend that. Nihida currently has Sacrificial Fragments on. She is also built completely for EM. Pretty much everyone is built for EM except for Tartaglia, but we will get into that. Her best option, pretty much just whatever increases her EM as much as possible. Yeah, her best free-to-play slot is pretty much just Sacrificial Fragments. The bonus of being able to do elemental skill twice, not really necessary, but it's nice to have. But yeah, anything that gives her the most elemental mastery is definitely your best option. Kuki Shinobu, again, another person that just needs something with EM. I use her with the weird umbrella, the Shigiri. I like it, it suits her style. I'll be honest, I never notice if the curse is actually any good. I don't know if Shigiri is honestly that good for Kuki Shinobu, but I love how it looks and it increases EM and it's not much different to the Iron Sting or the Dark Iron Sword. Basically, whichever has the most elemental mastery will be the best option for you in terms of weapons. Moving on to artifacts. If you've seen another video where I have Tartaglia, they've not really changed much. It's just the 4-piece. So there was a time where I was trying to farm for Nymph Stream and I never really got anything too great with it. So I kind of just stuck with Heart of Depth because replacing all of Tartaglia's equipment is quite difficult because he is probably my best built character. That may or may not be true. So obviously he's designed primarily for crit rate, crit damage. Not all of his rolls are particularly perfect. Go for the attack percent with the Sands, Hydra damage for the Goblet, and then crit damage. This is a terrible crit damage piece, but if you played Genshin Impact for more than 5 minutes, you unfortunately know that rolling for these damn pieces is impossible. Next up, we have Kazuha. Kazuha is pretty standard with a Viridescent Venerous set. I think I recently did a video with him in a team, which doesn't really surprise me because he's in so many of my teams and I really need to rework his artifacts because they are terrible. But pretty much just trying to go for as much EM as possible as I can get away with. Animo damage, of course. EM. Again, my pieces are terrible, but I play the game so that my characters do enough damage to not feel inconsistent. As long as they do enough to kill stuff quick enough outside of Abyss, I'm not that fussed. Nahida, she has the Deepwood Memory set as, you know, we need that Dendro damage. Again, ideally pretty much as much EM as possible as you can physically acquire. Again, her pieces aren't particularly amazing. I don't know why this is a crit rate. I just don't think I found anything that had any decent elemental mastery on it, and I don't have any EM pieces. So it is what it is. It exists. This should be EM. I've just never fixed it for some reason because I'm not that fussed. But yeah, as much EM as you can physically put on her as possible. Kuki Shinobu, we have the Gilded Dream set. There are so many different EM options now you can do for EM built characters. It's lovely. I farmed Gilded Dreams for a long time. I'm not replacing it anytime soon, but whichever set you prefer, which increases elemental mastery, is your to go. You can also just have the two-piece for two different elemental mastery pieces, but again, I like the succinctness of a 4-piece. Again, not particularly well built. It's got a little bit of HP percent. Complete elemental mastery. Complete elemental mastery. Again, not particularly great, but I'm quite happy with the character overall. The great thing about Kuki Shinobu is even with as much EM as you can stack, her skill does still heal, so she's a really good support, even by accident. Because you don't build her in the intentions of healing, but she is so good at it anyway that even if you've not built for it, it still is very useful to the team. She keeps my characters alive way more than she has any right to. Is this a cheeky look at their attributes? Honestly, fairly shocked at how decent Tartaglia's crit rate and crit damage is. I'm not even mad. Kazuha, you know, it's fine. Elemental Mastery could be better. I know some people have got him over 1,000. That would be nice, but I don't go too hard when it comes to farming. Nahida, she could be a lot better. She could have a lot more Elemental Mastery, but, you know, she is what she is. Kuki Shinobu, easily my character with the most Elemental Mastery in the game. So yeah, it's a cheeky look at all their stats. They're not, you know, they're not perfect. They never will be. I'm not that kind of player. I like making sure the character's good enough to use, and then I pretty much leave them there. In terms of the constellations, C0, 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 C4. Everyone can be at C0, it's fine. You don't need anything. In terms of talents, Tartaglia is the only character I have ever crowned, and currently maybe the only character I ever crown. You should level his talents equally, especially because his basic attack, while not something you use particularly often, it does affect his Riptide. His Riptide damage is affected by his normal attack. Would recommend leveling to at least the same level as each other. You know, 6 is the standard. Obviously, Elemental Mastery for this team at the very least, and just Tartaglia in general. Very, very important part of the kit. Easily his biggest damage dealer. His ult, it's whatever. It does some pretty decent damage. It isn't necessary to have it as strong as Raging Tide, I feel, but it does do some solid damage. Kazuha, we have we have him all at 777. Kazuha is one of those characters where, again, his talents all pretty much need to be the same level as each other, because his plunging attack, which is created by this one, by his skill, is related to his basic attack. So they kind of need to be linked together. And obviously, Kazuha's ult is insane. Kazuha's talents are fantastic, and you should have them all leveled around the same sort of level. Nahida, I've pretty much just done her E and her Q. I know some people play basic attack Nahida. I am not one of those people. You don't need to worry about her basic attack whatsoever. She will not be used for that purpose. Her E and her Q are the most important part of her kit. Admittedly, I despise Nahida's ult. And it's not because it's bad. In actual fact, it is very, very good. Nahida's kit is great. Although in this team, it's not great because I don't have 2 units of the same elemental type. It basically increases elemental mastery, which is fantastic. But I feel like the animation is so weirdly long. that it takes too long, and half the time I just don't do it. Again, her burst and her skill and her burst are very good. I just don't like doing the burst because it doesn't deal any damage, and that's just a weird hang up I have on Nahida. But Nahida as a character is just insane. Kuki Shinobu doesn't need basic attack unless you're doing a weird basic attack build. Her elemental skill, I'd argue, is probably her most important part of the kit. Her Q is also nice, but again, I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially considering it scales with max HP, which she's not built for. She's not built for max HP, she's built for elemental damage. So in theory, you don't really need to build her talents that much, but for the most part, you know, pretty standard 6 and 6 will do the job. This is the team I've been using for Hyperbloom Tartaglia for about a year now. I've not replaced any of these characters in my team. I've yet to have a character that I go, ooh, you'd fit better. In terms of alternatives, there are options, because admittedly, it is a fairly expensive team, especially if you've just pulled Tartaglia. If you don't want Kazuha, Sucrose, always a relatively free-to-play replacement option. Could also cheekily use Farazan. Any Animo replaces Kazuha pretty succinctly, which is nice. Just build them for EM and you got them. But yeah, pretty much any other Animo unit will do the trick. Cheekily, if you wanted an excuse to get more elemental mastery for the team, you could use another Dendro character to get the elemental resonance. So, you know, Baiju could work, Tignari could also work, you know, Cole, probably not a great option. Yao Yao, you know, Yao Yao does some pretty decent off-field Dendro application. Personally, I'd use Baiju, but again, Baiju's a 5-star character and not particularly free-to-play friendly when there's already 3 5-stars on the team. Just forgot, Dendro Traveler, also an option. This will be less so if you're using Dendro Traveler instead of Nahida. So Dendro Traveler is a really solid alternative Dendro option. I still really like Dendro Traveler. Yes, there are much better Dendro applicators out there now, but I don't know, I really like Dendro Traveler. It may have been because it was the only like half decent Dendro character we had for like a good month, but I enjoyed Dendro Traveler. It's a very free to play friendly option if you don't have someone like Nahida. I feel like a lot of people probably have Kuki Shinobu now, which is great. If you don't have Kuki Shinobu, one option, which is way more expensive, is Raiden Shogun. I used her in the original video, I think, but she wasn't built for EM, so she is less useful for Hyperbloom, and I just don't have her built for Hyperbloom in general, so she's not a great Electro unit. Of all the units, I feel like Kuki Shinobu is probably the hardest to replace in terms of alternatives, just because her elemental skill is just so perfect for Hyperbloom reactions. Like, Beidou's ult doesn't really work with it. Razor, I mean, it would trigger the Hyperblooms that are on the field once, but I don't think that would have much of an impact for very long. Fischl, I'm pretty sure she doesn't trigger Hyperblooms. Kujosara, again, is going to be a faff. Lisa, I don't think triggers blooms particularly well. And Dory, the less said about Dory, the better. I do want to try and make a team around Dory at some point, but I just know that she's not very good. But maybe Dory one day. But yeah, of all the people on the team, I'd say Kuki Shinobu is probably the hardest to replace. These two, relatively easy to replace. Kuki Shinobu, a lot less so, just because what she does as an EM Electro unit is so insanely strong. If for some reason you want to give the team a try and you don't have Tartaglia, by the way, highly recommend getting Tartaglia, he is amazing. In terms of Hydra options, I did do a weird thing with Candice last time, because she can infuse her attacks. Now her damage is not nearly as good as Tartaglia, but in theory, she could do the trick. And there we have the team in a nutshell. I love this team. I play this team day in and day out. I'm very happy with the damage. There are other people that get their Hyperbloom damage a fair amount higher than I do. But, you know, we can't have everything in this world. But me personally, I'm very happy with this team's strength just in general. Tell you what, one great thing about this team and just Hyperbloom in general, and I know some people are sick of Hyperbloom and I get it. It is a very easy team comp to make and is very meta defining for a good reason. It does a ton of damage, but it is a really strong team both against single units and multiple, and is wonderful for the Abyss, and that's coming from someone that despises the Abyss. In terms of rotations, I tend to just do this each time. Nahida to get the Dendro on, get Kazuha out, Kazuharo, and then we just, you know, and we just do this. And then every now and again, you just casually do 22k damage. So yeah, the damage is very strong. That's pretty standard with Hyperbloom and just Tartaglia in general. One problem with the team that you might notice is that rotations can be a little dodgy. The thing with Tartag is that obviously you need to keep in mind his Riptide cooldown at all times. You need to keep it in mind. And with this team, it can get a little difficult to, you know, want to leave this state when you're, you know, constantly proccing Hyperblooms. But you get used to it and it's not so bad after a little while. If you've played Tartaglia for long enough, you'll know how to sort of avoid that by now. But it's not nearly as scary as it might first seem. I know that floor 10 isn't a particularly strong floor. It'll be a good display of the team. Spiral Abyss is always a good show of strength for a team, even though I absolutely detest this place. I said it before and I'll say it again. The team is both great for bosses and spreads of enemies. It really excels in spreads of enemies, but that's mainly because Tartaglia's Riptide is insanely good. But anyway, let's begin. So yeah, as far as teams go, they are by far my favourite and arguably my strongest. Hyperbloom has no right being as strong as it is. But the added benefit is that the team is just insanely fun to play. I'm one of those players that doesn't like to sacrifice fun for meta, and this team is both decently strong in terms of the meta and very fun to play. I know I've done a couple of these videos now, sort of demonstrating this team, but this really is like my defining version of it, unless they come out with a unit that just blows one of these 4 characters out of the water, which I highly doubt, because in their own respective ways they are very good at what they do individually. Give the team a try or some alternative version of it, you will not be disappointed. At the very least, if it just encourages one person to pull for Tartaglia, I will take it. The dude is the best character in the game. He's so incredibly fun to play, and Riptide may be a little bit scary to start off with, but I promise you it is so much easier what you might first think. You just have to, you know, you just have to let it warm to you. So I've been thinking of doing this to Tartaglia for a few months now. I wanted to do it in the latest Tartaglia video I've done, and I've not done one of him in a while, and I just thought I'd show my devotion by finally free crowning my favorite character in the entire game. I don't see myself triple crowning a character in a very long time, but of all the characters on my team that deserves it, Tartaglia is 100% the one. There we go. The man, the myth, the legend, he is officially triple crowned, and that is all I have to say on the matter. I have been James, the Mayor of JamessTown. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think of the team, if you have any alterations, how you like to play Tartaglia. I've got a taser comp that I'm currently working on that I look forward to recording at some point, but I still need to figure out some things. We'll get around to that at some point. Anyway, thank you for those that stuck around to the end. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, where I hope you triple crown your Tartaglia, goodbye.